am the Senior Director of Programs and Community Engagement here at Mechanics Institute. Welcome. It's so exciting to have all of you here. Who is here for the very first time? Welcome, everyone. I hope it's the first of many. And who's here again for one of our storytelling showcases? You've been to one before. Oh, fabulous! We love that. And where are my members at? Where are my Mechanics Institute members? Yay! Oh, love that for us. For those who are less familiar with Mechanics Institute, we were founded in 1854, so we're celebrating our 170th anniversary this year. We're very excited to still be here, and we hope that you will come and join us for many of our programs. We are a gorgeous, multi-story general interest library, world-renowned chess program. We're the oldest chess club in the United States. An event center, like what we're doing this very evening, and an arts and cultural space. We offer anywhere from 5 to 15 events per week here at Mechanics Institute. We're a hub for writers, readers, cinephiles, chess players, and lifelong learners. And we hope that there'll be something for each and every one of you to come and join us for in the future. I want to mention a couple things that we have coming up. On some of the tables that you've got around you are flyers for two very, very special events that we want to highlight. Our storytelling showcase in June is going to be hosted by the one and only Kate Farrell, who's here this evening. Kate Farrell is here. Beloved storyteller and instructor in the Bay Area, Kate has been leading our Weaving Storytelling Through Community class here at Mechanics Institute, and our June 26th Storytelling Showcase will feature Kate and her extraordinary students sharing their new stories. So please come and join us for that special Storytelling Showcase. We're taking the month of July off. Have a great month, everybody. And then we'll be back better than ever with Corey leading a class on August 28th. It's a storytelling workshop where, coming to this workshop, you'll get both Corey's book and an incredible storytelling workshop that's going to kick off our 2024-25 season of storytelling showcases. So that one is extra, extra special, and I hope you'll join us on that August 28th date. So please take the flyers with you and sign up for those. They're going to be really fun. A couple other highlights. This Friday closes out our Cinema Lit of Elizabeth Taylor films. We've been having an absolute blast viewing her extraordinary filmography with our film curator, Matthew Kennedy, who's coming out with a new book on Elizabeth Taylor. So we're launching that this Friday, and we're showing the fantastic film, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. So please come and join us this Friday at 6 for cinema. And then June, of course, kicks off Pride Month here in San Francisco. And we have a few different events that I hope you will check out. On June 7th, we start our Cinema for June, which is all documentaries, with the Cockettes. The Cockettes are the original, drag group and surrealist group here in the Bay Area, and we'll have the director, David Weissman, and two of the original Cockettes, Scrumbly Coldwind and Sweet Pam, who are joining us for that. So please come and check that out. On June 13th, we're welcoming Annalee Newitz in conversation with forum co-host Alexis Madrigal for a conversation on Newitz's new book, Stories Are Weapons. And then later in June, we have Damon Scott, who's coming to speak on his new book, The City Aroused. So we are celebrating Pride with a variety of different programs that I hope you'll come check out. And now I'm very excited to welcome our host for this evening, Corey Rosen. Corey is a writer, actor, visual effects producer, and storytelling teacher based in San Francisco, California. He hosts the Moth Story Slams and Grand Slams and has been featured on the Moth Radio Hour, Alice Radio's The Sarah and Vinny Show, and K-Fog's The Finch Files podcast. Corey is a performer at Bats Improv, one of the world's foremost centers for improvisational theater, and is the author of Your Story Well Told, which we do have for sale this very evening, which is creative strategies to develop and perform stories that wow an audience. For more information about Corey, you can visit CoreyRosen.com. Corey has a couple upcoming shows that I'm very excited to share with you. This Friday, he'll be at Bats Improv at Fort Mason, and he's hosting The Moth at Frank Salvage on June 5th. Apparently, he's also hosting his own daughter's birthday, but we're not invited to that. Maybe I am, but I don't know. And so please give a warm Mechanics Institute welcome to the one and only Corey Rosen.
to say Wednesday night, but now it's like Wednesday afternoon, right? It's summer hours, it's light outside. Thank you for coming back, for those of you who've been here. Applaud if you've been here before. My name is Corey. What is your name? Welcome. Yes, nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Thank you also for those of you who noticed that I got a haircut yesterday. You noticed that? Yes. I asked you to make it, you look like a mushroom. I think that's because I'm a fun guy. Yeah. It's actually because I'm on mushrooms all the time. So that's why. No, it never looks the same when you leave, after you leave the salon, right? You leave the barber, I even asked Darius, I was like, how do you style it? He goes, oh, you just go in. Yeah. It never looks the same. Anyway, I am happy that you're here. Let me kind of tell you what you're in for, and then we'll get underway. So this is a kind of a mixed storytelling showcase. It's really focused is on storytelling, but there's a broad category that I include in the super category of storytelling. So we have had, for those of you who have been here, let's just do a little recap. Over the last year that we've been doing shows here, every month, except for the one that I got COVID, every month we've done basically a storytelling showcase that have featured different people from different, let's say, parts of my life or different parts of life. So these are not people who are necessarily performers that are professional storytellers in the sense of the word. Some of them are. Some of them have just lived lives and have stories to show for it. So there will be some stand-up comedy from time to time. There has been, we've had magicians. Is anybody here for any of the magic acts? We've had magicians. We had a DJ once. Anybody remember that? A lot of complaints about the DJ. He had the thump going in between. People were like, too loud, too much DJ. So no more DJ. We're learning as we go. We had the Wheel of Fortune storytelling. All kinds of things. And tonight's going to be 5 storytellers. They're all going to tell stories, somewhere in maybe 5 to 8 minute range. And some of them might be funny, some of them might not be, some of them might be stand-up, some of them might not be. So we'll kind of see as those things go. In my life, I'm going to catch you up. I like to give a little recap of what's happening in my life. A lot of things. My life is full of change, it feels right now. My son was accepted college to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Except today he got off a waiting list, and now he's in turmoil. Like, what does he do? Should he go to Santa Barbara or Cal Poly? So let's just say on the count of 3, yell out what he should do. 1, 2, 3. Cal Poly! Right, that made it perfectly clear. I heard the one that I wanted to go to, which is Cal Poly. So thank you. Anybody here actually go to Santa Barbara? Great. So that's been happening, a lot of joy and frustration as we go through life. And then my wife has been having a challenging week. It started at the gas station. She calls me in utter frustration because she needs to get to work. She has to be at work in about 20 minutes. She needs to get gas, but her key broke off in the ignition of her car at the gas station, and she does not know what to do. And I can fix things, but over the phone, key repair is not my strong suit. So I snapped into my version of action. I got into an Uber, and I met her at the gas station just as her Uber was arriving to take her away. So things were working out well. And just as the old AAA was also arriving. So AAA is there, I'm there, we're not exactly sure what to do. This is not a standard AAA repair, right? This is an abnormal AAA repair. And as I'm trying to explain to the AAA technician what's going on, I put the broken key into the ignition and turn it, and it works fine. Oh. Which means I don't have a problem, right? I don't need to be told like nothing is the matter. So hooray, I drive home victorious. Right? I have fixed the problem in no time flat, and I get home, and all we have to do is just drive with half a key. Like, that's the thing. Like, there are worse things. There's worse ways to be. Sure, the car thinks that there's like, yes, a screwdriver could start the car, but it doesn't matter because we have a working, functional car until yesterday. Yesterday, what's today's name? Monday. we were invited to a friend's a little shindig barbecue thing out in Stinson Beach, a lovely, beautiful part of Westmoreland County. I've actually never been to Stinson Beach. It's beautiful. Yes, I know. I've only lived here 30 years. I don't get out of it. And to get there, you have to go down this beautiful, winding kind of coastal road, and you finally arrive, and it's like you're back in the 60s. Like nothing has changed in the 60s. And we have a lovely afternoon, and everybody's leaving, and as we get into the car has that thing, and you all know this thing, when like you can't turn the key of the car, right? Yeah. You can't turn the key, and the steering wheel is locked. Right? Yeah. Right? We've all had that, right? Yes. So I'm not dumb. I do what you're supposed to do. I do the little jiggle thing, turn thing. It doesn't work. So I go back into the house, and I explain this to her, and of course there's a mansplaining guy and says, "Oh, let me teach you a little trick. Let me show you what to do." He comes out, tries to do 4 more people exactly the same thing. They all think that they know the answer because it's common sense. Anybody not know the trick? It's like there's like a thing your wheel will do, and you have to go like this. Anyway, cut to an hour later, sitting in the passenger seat of the tow truck going down the very windy road. Now, that's a bad enough road to drive on, but when you're in the tow truck passenger seat with your car being towed behind you back home, it's worse. So, I like to fix things, right? We've established that. Sort of fix the key thing. So I decided I am going to take apart the car, right? So I'm unscrewing bolts, and I'm taking things apart, and there's a little screw that needs a special screwdriver. I have that. It needs a special screwdriver, and I take it all apart, and it still does not work. So at this point, I need to call in the professional. So I called a locksmith, right? Because my hope is that maybe it's all in this original problem. Maybe it's all in that key shaft. I can get it fixed. And sure enough, the locksmith comes, gets the key thing out. He, for some reason, makes me a new key, which I'm not sure why. I think he just wanted to sell me another thing because the total was $400. Anyway, he gives me the thing, and now I have a working car. So my problems are solved until after lunch. I'm not kidding. I go to lunch. This is all happening yesterday. I go to lunch, and I come back from lunch, and I can't keep out the car. So if you happen to see a red Chevy Traverse parked nearby, all you need to do is move the plastic bag, and you can drive it anywhere you want. Right now, that's the situation in my life. So there you go. So I'm ready to stop moving, ready to slow down, and listen to some stories. Are you ready for some stories? So we have 5, as I mentioned. They're going to delight and entertain as they have delighted and entertained me. So please welcome our first. You're up first. Yeah. Give it up for Devin Hawkins!
This story is a little like Corey's opening, that it might not have a resolution, so I'm just gonna warn you off the bat for that. But our theme for tonight was timeout. So this is a story about how the Peace Corps gave me a timeout and told me I had 3 days to get out of the country. I wasn't aware that you could get kicked out of the Peace Corps, but I learned pretty quick. So I joined the Peace Corps out of college. I got an engineering degree from the University of Washington, and when I graduated college, I had no idea what to do with myself. It's kind of the theme of my whole life, but it was especially acute right after graduating college. And I decided to apply to the Peace Corps because I was very confused about the disparity in the world. I didn't really understand why I had so much and others seemingly had so little. And I thought, well, if I go help those who seem to have less, maybe I can find some peace about this perceived disparity. It was a very cute and noble notion of mine back then. So I applied to the Peace Corps and was then sent, or they told me that I would be teaching math and science in Lesotho. So I don't know if you know where Lesotho is, but it's a little country landlocked in the middle of South Africa, the southern tip there. And that seemed to work perfectly because I also had another motivation for joining the Peace Corps in that when I graduated college, I wasn't a very happy person. And I thought that if I could take all the things in my life that made me even a semblance of happy, like my friends, my hometown, anything I liked, worldly comforts, and get rid of them, just get totally rid of those, and then find a way to be happy, well then I would just be invincible for the rest of my life. I felt like if I took everything that made me happy and then found a way. It seems a little naive now looking back. It also seems like the premise of those Buddhist monks who go live in caves for like 30 years and then they come out and they're all smiles and joy. But this may surprise you, I am not a Buddhist monk. And 23-year-old me was definitely more akin to a meth head than a Buddhist monk. On the continuum from meth head to Buddhist monk, definitely closer to the Central Valley meth head. But the Lesotho seemed to fit perfectly with that plan because there's no real running water, there's no electricity, it's an extremely rural, undeveloped country as a whole. So I was very excited to be miserable and flew off to Lesotho in the fall of 2013. Now, when the Peace Corps structure basically that you have 3 months of training in like a central village with a bunch of other people, and then you have 2 years of teaching, supposedly 2 years, in a different village, somewhere out in the country. And so after my 3 months of training, I got assigned to Hassingkwas, which is a village in the Moholong district of Lesotho. And this also fit perfectly with Operation Make Devin Miserable, because there's no water. I mean, there's wells, but there's no running water in any buildings. There's no electricity. I lived in like a small round hole about 20 feet in diameter, which is actually, on the bigger end. So I had a little bit of luxury, which I was grateful for. But the getting out to site was an experience in itself. But I remember when I got there, I went to the boarding school, basically, that I was going to be teaching at because basically all the villages around there are not big enough to support schools of their own. So they send their kids to basically a boarding school that's kind of a magnet, right, for all the surrounding villages. And so this had about 300 men, or male and female students from the ages of like 12 to 21. So we're talking about high school here. And there were about 8 other Lesotho teachers. So they're from Lesotho, and they got they got teaching degrees, and then went to become teachers. And in my first conversation with one of them, they asked me, why are you in Hassingkwas, which was the town? And I said, I'm here to teach. And they're like, oh, are you a teacher? I was like, no, I'm an engineer. And they were like, so why are you in Hassingkwas? I was like, okay. So helping those with less might be a little bit more complicated than I had thought. So began teaching, which was extremely difficult, and there were a couple of key reasons why it was really difficult to teach there. One of them was that we, as Peace Corps volunteers, were required to teach in English because it was part of an internationally standardized curriculum, blah, 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 whatever have you. But most of the students did not speak English. So I would be teaching free body diagrams and Newtonian mechanics to students who didn't speak the language I was speaking and pretty much had no idea what I was talking about. That's all to say that my teaching was wholly ineffective and all my students failed almost every single one of my tests. But that's what I wanted, right? I wanted to go make myself as miserable as possible and then figure out a way to be happy. This was really well thought out on my part. It was working out perfectly so far. Totally failing at teaching in a rural village with no worldly comforts. Wonderful. But I did figure out some other ways to find happiness. It turns out that books are a great way to escape reality. That's one effective method. Another is that it turns out you can brew booze in a bucket. I would combine about a gallon of water, sugar, brewer's yeast, and ginger in a bucket for 5 days, and then have myself a little potable on Friday night. That was a good pattern I got into. I would read about 300 to 600 pages a day, and then have a Friday night for myself. But that went on for about 6 months until I was making some mots keto in my little round hole, and I heard some banging on my door. I got open the door, and my host mother, and she says, "Why am I so long?" She said, "So long." which I feel like that's what it was. It could have been something different in Tutu, but which is weird, but because that means the children of the school had burned the school. And I was like, that's insane. I don't believe you. I'm gonna go finish my P's, because P's take priority. And then I will come back and find out what's going on here. So I go back to make my P's, and a couple minutes later, there's another banging on the door. And I open the door, and there's about 7 teachers from the school. And they say, sir, the children of the school have rioted and burned the school. And I was like, okay. I'm starting to believe this a little bit more. But let's go up to the school and find out. So we are walking up to the school. It's about a 15-minute walk from my hut up the hill to basically the school compound with eight buildings. And I'm at first a little dubious because all the school buildings are cinder block buildings. And I'm not exactly sure how you can burn down a cinder block building. So we get the crest of the school, and I'm kind of expecting to see kids rioting and throwing stones. And I'm gonna, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna heal some kids? I'm not exactly sure what I was gonna do when I got there. But it seemed like something I should attend to. And as we get over the hill and look down on these 8 buildings in the compound, just every single one of them is just completely on fire, like 20-foot flames coming out of the roof. And it turns out that the students had actually siphoned gas off the generator from the main school, from the generator building, and then thrown it around every one of the buildings that lit on fire. And I also forgot that that school had actually hoarded textbooks. It was like a form of power brokering. They would like basically lend textbooks to other schools, sell textbooks. I'm not exactly sure all the mechanics. But they had lined all the inside of the buildings with just stacks of thousands of textbooks. And while cinder blocks may not burn, textbooks sure will. And so the windows were like melting out of the buildings. It was really hot. So I didn't see any of the children though. And I asked the teachers, and they pointed up into the hills. And you could see that the kids were just roaming the hills to get away from the riot that they had just caused. I don't know why they thought that was an effective strategy, because Lesotho doesn't have any vegetation on the hills, and the full moon was out, so you could just see, the 20 to 30 kids who were just running around the hills. And then finally, the 2 police cars and 2 military trucks showed up, and they hopped out and started shooting shotguns in the air. And I was like, I don't know what those are for, but I hope it's not the students, because they're not armed. So get that hand real quick. And so they corralled all the students, they brought them back down into the school compound, and they basically just like hazed them for the rest of the evening. They like made them run around the compound, they made them sing songs and like put their hands on their heads, and basically were asking them questions and trying to figure out what happened, but also having the village elders come out and basically talk to them. It was quite a sight. It was pretty dramatic. And by the time the sun was rising, they had identified who they thought were the 6 kind of ringleaders of the riot, and had arrested them and taken them to the main town about an hour away. I warned you this story does not have a resolution, so get ready for that. And so I just realized in my own head. And so then they took them to the main camp town about an hour. It was an hour drive, and you could walk it 2 hours. And I said, well, I'm never going to do this again, so might as well walk it and go follow and see what is going on. So I went to the main camp town and was talking to the students in the story to tell. In the jail that they had there, and I asked them, well, why did you burn the school down? And they had arrested 6 of the guys there, and the guys said that they had done that because the male teachers were sleeping with their girlfriends and then beating them, the boyfriends, in class to humiliate them. Which was horrific. Intense story. And so I obviously didn't know really what to do with that, but Operation Be Unsuccessful and Miserable was in full force. I had about 3 more months living in that town where there was no more school, so there was nothing I could do to be productive. I ended up, smoking some weed and just hiking around the mountains, hanging out with shepherds for about 3 months, because the Peace Corps just kind of let me do my thing. I don't know if they thought I was healing or something. And eventually I ended up smoking with a shepherd who had, told the local police that they had smoked dacha with Mahua, which is a white person. There's only like 1 white person within 50 miles, so it was pretty obvious that was me. And the Peace Corps found out, and they said, time out! You go 3 days to get out of the country. So I ended up having to leave Lesotho, having helped no one and figured out nothing.
Doing around the world. That is the beautiful work. Fantastic. Thank you, Devin. All right, are you ready, Ginger? All right, our next storyteller is coming, making her way to the stage. So please welcome my good friend and a wonderful storyteller, Ginger Parnes.
Hello.
Hi.
It's the 70s. There's a huge migration of adults, young adults, coming to California from all over the world. The state estimates that 35% of all the people moving to California in the 70s were young adults seeking a latter-day version of the California dream. I am one of them. I've been living in Miami, Florida, and I know it's time to leave. Florida is not the place for me. People go to California to live. People go to Florida to die. California is multicolored. Florida is orange. And in California, it's gotcha. Florida, it's like that. So I've gotten myself an apartment, and I am immersing myself in Northern California culture. I want to be a hippie. I'm reading books including J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. I decided that today I'm going to go down to Santa Cruz, which I think is the epicenter of hippiedom. Before I go, I do a pre-trip ritual. Smoke a joint. Now, I first smoked pot when I was a senior at the University of Florida in Gainesville. I've been hearing a lot about it, and I asked my friend Kenny, can you get us some pot? He comes over with a little plastic bag and a little pipe, and it really does look like grass, doesn't it? Okay, I'm gonna try some of this. Okay, get in. Nothing's happening. And then the room starts undulating. And before you know it, he and I are hysterically laughing about who knows what. For who knows how long. Oh my God, we were so happy having fun. And then the attack of the munchies. My roommates, they don't live nearby, so she always had great food in the refrigerator. I go into the kitchen. Kenny, you gotta come in here. There's a whole roasted turkey. We start hacking it up. Putting pieces in a gallon jar of mayonnaise. Hellman's, of course. Delicious. Needs a little salt. Terrific. Well, with such a pleasurable experience the first time, I've become a pretty regular pot smoker when you can get a hold of it. What I like about smoking pot is I feel a shift in my consciousness. I feel more in touch with others, and I'm very excited about life. So on my way, I'm going to be very careful because I'm driving to Santa Cruz, and I get into my little car, and I put the top down. Now, this drive down to Santa Cruz, an hour and a half or so, is spectacular in any case, but with a little buzz on, oh my, oh, waves are crashing and hitting the rocks, the sky is blue. Welcome to the Hotel California, such a lovely place, going to Santa Cruz. Well, I know I want to find a spot close to the boardwalk so I can go on the rides. I want to go on that Big Dipper. And I look around and I do find a spot right behind a Volkswagen van. Well, now I know I'm in Santa Cruz. This van, flowers painted on it, Celtic rooms, rainbows. I get out of the car and I see the other two, and I'm a friendly person, so I said, "Hey, great band you got there. I'm Ginger." And this other guy, this guy's imposing presence this man has. Long robes on, a gray long beard, holding a staff. "I am Gandalf the Grey." Oy vey, that weed was too strong. Am I imagining things? No, you are not imagining things. These are my friends Frodo and Bilbo. We're on a quest in California. Would you like to join us? Impulsive me. Absolutely, yes. How in California, you know, I'm going to travel with Gandalf? Well, we jump into their van and smoke a bowl. I spend the day running around Santa Cruz. We're on the rides and we're hanging out at the beach. And I imagine my life as it would be. Free from convention, no bills to pay, no rent, no landlords bothering me. We'll be eating in gathering food in the forest. Oh, didn't I see there's a book called Foraging for Dummies? I must get that. I think I'm gonna wear long dresses, braid my hair, and maybe I'll get a staff and a satchel. Well, we're having our great day running around the Santa Cruz, and as the day starts to wane, we go up onto a cliff, and we're looking out at the gorgeous sunset, this golden orb sinking into the Pacific. Now that the evening has come, we must find a place in the woods to camp. Camp? I don't like camping. And what I really hate about camping is in the middle of the night, a sleeping bag, cozy, looking at the stars, and I have to pee. And I have to get out of the sleeping bag and go find a place, and there's creatures out there, and I'm so scared, and then I come back, get back in the sleeping bag, fully aware that I'm going to have to pee again in a few hours. Gandalf. Esteemed wizard, I regret to inform you that I will not be able to enjoy traveling with you. I must return to my shire. May the force be with you, or whatever you say in Middle-earth. And as I drive away, I wave goodbye to Gandalf and his tribe, and wave goodbye as I'm waving goodbye to any delusion I have about me being a hippie. What about my Egyptian cotton sheets? What about clean underwear? I was going to have to stop shaving my legs and let my armpit hair grow? No way. And how I managed to get myself back to San Francisco with the realization that maybe the hippie world is not the one for me.
At the Monkey House in Berkeley. Do you have any upcoming shows, or is this?
In 2 months.
In 2 months at
The Monkey House.
back at the Monkey House. Great. Terrific. All right. Thank you, Ginger. All right. Our next storyteller is a longtime friend of mine. I want to say the word an old friend of mine anymore. I'll get into that in my life. It's a longtime friend of mine, and I'm very excited to welcome to the stage. So please welcome Lawrence Kushner.
We spend our lives trying to get far away from our parents and trying to keep our children close. But since everyone is both a child and a parent of the next generation, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that we have a problem here. Lots of parents wanting to keep their kids close. Lots of kids trying to get away. Lots of kids wishing they could go home, but not being able to stand it once they get there. Lots of parents eager for their kids to go back to school, but not being able to stand it once they've left. It's crazy. Like dogs. They love to jump into the car, and as soon as they're in the car, they love to jump out of the car. Comedian Gary Shandling says he just leaves both car doors open. They jump in, they jump out, it can go on for hours. We have it worse. We do it with our parents for our whole lives. I remember how once, almost 40 years ago now, Karen and I hid at the window watching our oldest child wait at the edge of the driveway for the big yellow school bus. The bus was so big, she literally had to climb up on the first step. We hid behind the drapes and cried. Not long ago, she called to tell us what she would be preaching on the Sabbath to her congregation. I asked her to send us a copy. Why, she asked. So we can put it on the refrigerator. I remember the first week I spent at college. It was over 60 years ago now. I took the old Baltimore and Ohio sleeper from Detroit down to Cincinnati. I had to register for courses, move into a dorm room, meet classmates, open my first checking account, buy textbooks, attend orientations, do homework, and of course set the world on fire. There was no turning back. I remember sitting at my desk watching the cars go by on Clifton Avenue, thinking how nice it would be just to be back home, but deciding that since it was going to be like this for the rest of my life, I'd better get used to it. But I cried anyway. Then I went to bed. How could I have known that at that very moment my parents also held one another and wept? Why do people cry about everything they've prayed for? The first time I came home from the University of Cincinnati was Thanksgiving. The night air was cold with the intimation of snow. One of the guys in my dorm drove this old Citroen, which had hydraulic suspension. When you turned on the ignition, the car made a funny hissing sound and raised itself a few inches. He was from Toronto and had to drive through Detroit on his way home. Two other guys and I hitched a ride with him. Long sections of I-75 then were still down the main streets of Ohio farm towns. So the trip took over 8 hours, and I didn't get home until after 10. As we pulled into the driveway, I saw my mother standing on the front porch. She was dressed awfully nice for a Wednesday evening at home. I am sure of this because she was wearing this garish gray and pink blouse with rhinestones on it. It was the only time I'd ever seen her wear it. I had given it to her for her birthday a year before and had forgotten all about it. And now, there she was on our front porch in the middle of the night, wearing it like a lighthouse, guiding the Citroen's precious cargo home. Even my father positioned himself in a chair he hated, but which did offer a commanding view of the driveway. Working the crossword puzzle, he looked up for a moment. My mother walked out to the car, held me at arm's length so as to take all of me in and examine the merchandise this adventurer from Ohio who had come forth from her body. My God, why didn't you call? We were worried something had happened to you. Would your friends like to come inside for some coffee and fresh-baked pie? My mother had never baked a thing in her life. No, thank you. They were already very late and eager to get back on the road. So I took my valise and went inside. At the time, I didn't understand about family and the simple power of going away and coming back. I now realize that this setting out and returning home again is a kind of dance we do with our source and our destiny. We spend our lives learning and rehearsing the steps, first as children, then from the other side as the parent generation. If we learn it right, when our time comes to die, we are not afraid. It is not unlike the last words of the Hasidic master, Rabbi who, as he lay dying, took his wife's hand and said, "Why are you crying? My whole life was only that I might learn how to die."
Oh.
Lawrence Kushner, everybody. Here we go. Lawrence Kushner, if you're not familiar, is the author of 18 books and is now a very accomplished painter. So you can follow him at lawrencekushner.art, I think. lkushner.com to see his paintings. Please check that out. Kushner. Okay, ready? All right, our next storyteller, please welcome Liz Morrison.
Very different vibe. I'm hustling my way into the Aruba airport, running a little bit later than I would have liked for my flight home from an absolutely magical 10-day vacation in this beach paradise. It's January 2021, that time of COVID where it wasn't really cool to be traveling, but people were starting to do it. So I was full face shield, mask, but keeping it safe and really smug about the fact that I had global entry. So I was able to bypass the long line of families with screaming children in the normal customs line, and I got to go to the fancy global entry customs line. Because you see, in Aruba, you do U.S. customs before you board the plane because so much of their tourism is from America. And I'm feeling in full vacation Lizzie mode in this way. It had been 10 beautiful days of sitting on white sand beaches with beautiful sparkling blue waters. I got to pee in the ocean every day. That was really fun. We went to a donkey sanctuary. And this trip was really the time out that I needed after a very stressful year of 2020, of losing my job, of deciding to start my own business, of just, 2020. We all know what 2020 was, right? So But, as most vacations do, unfortunately, this one was coming to an end, and I had to return back to my life, hopefully really energized and ready for whatever next chapter was coming my way. So again, smugly walking past all of the families, screaming children, go to the global entry terminal, take out my passport, and I get a little warning message, this machine is broken. And I'm like, okay. So I take all my crap and go to the customs guy, hands in my passport, types in my information, looks at me, looks at my passport, computer, me, passport, computer, and then he says, okay ma'am, you've been selected for a customs screening. Please sit over there. And externally, vacation Lizzie. Yes, all good, no big deal. Internally, I'm going, fuck! Because I know, not only do I have contraband seashells hidden in my luggage, I have something else that I am definitely not supposed to have, and they will definitely find when they do this customs screening. So I go and I get called and I drag all my crap over to the area where the nice customs lady has to now meticulously go through it. And this was also the time of COVID where I forgot how to pack because I hadn't traveled in a couple of months. So I had a lot of stuff, like a suitcase that I literally had to sit on to get closed, a bulging duffel bag that I could barely zip shut, a backpack that probably weighed 40 pounds, and the customs lady is looking at it and is like, are you kidding me? I now have to meticulously go through all of these things. So she sort of sighs, and I'm just trying to be chill, but I know the second she gets to the suitcase, I'm fucked. So she starts with the backpack, and she pulls out the 4 tarot decks that I had brought with me, and I asked, would you like reading? She did not want reading. Then she gets to the duffel bag, she unzips that, she pulls out the pool noodles that I had bought on Amazon, many caftans, portable yoga mat, and she looks at all this stuff and she's like, did you use all of these things? Why do you have so much stuff? I'm very embarrassed at this point. And now it's time. She gets to the suitcase, zips it open, flips it open, and there it is. Shining up at her. The thing I definitely shouldn't have. It is a little marijuana weed vape, just sitting right there on top of all of my stuff. She looks at it, she picks it up, she looks at me being like this fucking girl. Looks at it, looks at me, and she says, is this a vape? Yes, it's a vape. Is this oil? Yes, it's oil. Is this THC? Now in that moment, I had the gall to internationally smuggle drugs, but I didn't have the gall to lie to law enforcement. So I say, yes, it's THC. But you see, I'm from California, it's legal there, I just totally forgot that I had it with me. And she goes, ma'am, you knew exactly what you were doing. Don't play with me here. And I'm like, that's right. So I step back and I'm like, and then she proceeds to have to go through my suitcase in my literal dirty laundry, where she then finds the shells, which she's also not too pleased about. And then she's going back, she has to go bring the weed vape back to test it. And that's when I realized my plane is boarding in 10 minutes. And so I'm like, ooh, okay, excuse me, hi, hello, hi. How long is this gonna take? And I get an even more forceful, ma'am, we do not care when your flight is boarding. You should be taking this more seriously. You've already been arrested. And I was like, what? Am I arrested? Am I arrested right now because I admitted that I had a weed vape? And they're like, no, you've been arrested before. This would be your second offense. You've been pulled over with drugs in your car. And I was like, nope, no, that's other Elizabeth Morrison that has drug felonies? And that's why my passport got flagged at customs? So they come back out and they're like, ma'am, you are very lucky. We were not able to ascertain how much THC was in this weed vape. So we cannot give you a felony, we cannot give you a fine, but we have put a note on your file. And don't do that again. This is illegal. Like, don't bring drugs into another country. It's dumb, it's stupid. And I was like, yes, absolutely good point. We'll not be doing that again. So I like shove all my crap back in as best I can to my suitcase and everything. And I race to my gate and I make it with about 4 seconds to spare. So I get on the flight, I sit down in my seat, again, full COVID mask, like face shield, and just under all of that, just start sobbing. Just start sobbing, because I realized I did get very lucky. I just avoided a felony. But more than that, it was a moment that made me take a pause and actually ask myself about my relationship with weed. Why I felt like I needed to bring this weed vape with me on a beautiful beach vacation. I had gotten to a point where I couldn't even imagine going on vacation without bringing some weed with me. And I realized when I did smoke on vacation, it did the opposite of what I wanted it to do. It disconnected me. It made it harder for me to look my friends in the eyes. It took me out of the present moment and into my crazy head. And it honestly wasn't even that fun when I did it. And so when I got home, I decided I needed to take a little break from weed for a couple of months. And I also got a letter from TSA telling me I had lost my trusted traveler status. So now, every time I go to the airport and I'm taking off my shoes and I'm pulling my computer out, I'm reminded of this incredibly stupid decision that I made and a check on my relationship with weed. Now, I just want to add a little coda to the end of this story. So after this impactful experience happened to me, I did take a little break, but I did return to smoking weed. And over the next couple years, it escalated, and I started smoking a lot more and a lot more. And around this time last year, I was actually working on this story to tell at another storytelling night. And it brought me right back into that experience and into those lessons that I had learned about my relationship to weed. And it made me decide to give it a break again. And so I'm happy to say that I'm now almost a year weed-free. And this is really a testament to the power of what happens when you take some time to think back to your own personal stories and the lessons that you can learn from even your lowest of moments. So I have a little challenge for you all tonight. I encourage you to go home tonight and think about a time that you messed up. And what's a lesson that you learned from that experience in your life that you can apply to your life today? So also, don't bring weed internationally. That's also the lesson.
Pop story night. I don't know. Larry's coming up. I don't know. Loading the gun right now. All right. Thank you. Definitely don't travel internationally. If your name is Elizabeth Morrison.
Yeah.
Specifically that. That's a very narrower demographic, but it's fun. All right, we've got one more act. I'm excited to welcome him. I've shared many a stage with him before. He is blowing up. He's hilarious. And I am excited to see him. And he's filming me right now. I don't know, or filming himself. Here he goes, Larry Dorsey Jr.
Many years ago, I was a student in a small African country, and we started a ride. No, but I will say, I know where I'm buying weed from. I know where I'm not getting it from, but I have almost been arrested probably about 5 times internationally in different countries because of weed. I remember I was in Tokyo. At the time I was moving around Asia for about a month, and I didn't know where to get weed, and I was just sober for a month. And unlike you, I couldn't make it that long, right? So I was just like, I need to smoke. And my friend, he was like a local rapper, and we smoked. And then I took the train 3 hours away from my hotel and got lost. Woke up like, whoa, we were trying to read Japanese, like, I'm lost. Yeah, so I've been high in many places. Only weed. I actually almost didn't make it to the show. My dad had to give me a ride. He's an old school black dude. He's the kind of dude with no teeth but loves eating steak. And on the way here, the car started making noises. And he's an aggressive dude. He played in the NFL. He's like a big guy. And the car was making noises. And I turned and looked at my dad. I was like, Dad, what's that sound? And he looked at me and he goes, it's the sound of you not walking, motherfucker. A lot of the stories have been uplifting and like, you know what I mean? Like all this good vibes and energy. But I feel like, and Corey wanted me to be funny. I'm a stand-up comedian, but I'm gonna switch directions because everybody else is so funny and I want to go in a different direction because I feel like we're at a time, the election's coming up and I'm not gonna go political, but we're at a time that we need to come together as human beings. So I'm gonna tell some stories about that. Are y'all familiar with the Standing Rock protest that happened back in like 2016 in North Dakota, South Dakota? I went to it and I lived in a teepee for about a week, and in Europe, and a yurt as well. A yurt is like the Mongolian version of a teepee, and it was one of the craziest experiences of my life. It was very difficult to sleep because helicopters and planes were flying over from the government, CIA, FBI, whatever, at all times. There were scrambling signals. You could not get in contact with anybody. You had to drive like almost an hour away to a nearby casino to get reception or to talk to people. It was like we were eating deer. I'm born and raised here in San Francisco, so I'm living in a teepee. Yeah, we're hippies, but yo, it was next level. But so what happened to me on the way there was one of the most craziest experiences of my life with law enforcement. And then, this is around also the same time Black Lives Matter was really high, like just fueled, right? And so we're driving, I'm with my friend, he's white, and with my other friend, he's Native American. If you've seen him, you're like, oh, this guy he's a Native American, right? And then there's me, right? And I'm in the front seat, and we rented a car, and when we started the movement to go out there, 30 people wanted to come with us, right? And we got a famous rapper to donate $10,000 to us, right? So we had $10,000, we had 30 people, we were gonna rent cars, we were gonna go really deep, and that's slang for a lot of people, and we were gonna go all the way, drive 27 hours to Middle America. And if you've ever done something crazy like skydiving, I last year or 2 years ago I went skydiving for the first time, same thing happened. 20 people, I want to go. The day of is 3 people there. Right? Same thing with Standing Rock. 30 people, 2 weeks left. It was 11 people. The day before, everybody was like, I'm just out, this is you 3. So it's just us 3. My friend in the front seat, the white guy, he is like 18 years old, never drove a car before, so he is not going to assist with the driving. Right? So he's just like, I'm just here for the ride right here. So me and my homie in the back, we're switching up driving. And the whole time, I'm running a story by them. Because at that period in my life, I was reading a book by Musashi, and it was like strategies of entering the mind fortress. And you have to appeal to somebody's dogma or ego in order to, or ethos, pathos, logos, and all this stuff. So, I was like, okay, if we get in a situation, because I was reading that a lot of people were getting pulled over and taken to jail, all the donations were getting thrown away, I was like, I'm going to say, I'm not religious at all, but I was like, I'm going to say that we're going across the country for a church program to donate and, for faith in Christianity. And so I was like, it's Middle America. They'll be like, oh, whoever, if a cop pulls us over, people are like, oh, yeah. And so I'm running this story by them, and they're exhausted. They're like, can you please stop fucking running this story by us? I'm like, you don't understand. We're going to get pulled over, and this is going to work. And so finally we get to around South Dakota, and we're riding, and we get pulled over, right? And this dude was like 6'4". He had the freaking Canada with a hat or whatever, I don't know, state trooper look, right? He was a huge dude, right? And he comes up to the car, And at the time, I had an ingrown toenail. And my toe was purple, like it was bad. And my shoe was off, so I was driving with no shoe. And so he comes up to the door. Oh my gosh, I haven't told this story in a long time. Okay, so he knocks on the window, right, and I roll down the window, and he goes, hey, can you step out the car? And I was like, what? Right, step out the car, right? And then I look at my white friend, my Native American friend, he was asleep in the back with like a bunch of donations over him, so you couldn't see he was in the car. And I look at my white friend, and he looks at me like, oh my gosh, it's happening before my eyes. Black Lives Matter, right? And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, yeah, I'll step out the car. I just gotta put my shoes on because I have an ingrown toenail. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh, okay, no problem. I put my shoe on. I step out. And he goes, come back with me to my car. And I'm like, what? Really? He's like, sit in the front seat with me. And I turn and look at my white friend one more time. And he looks at me like, oh no, it's happening, right? And I'm like, fuck, right? So I walk back to the car. I sit in the front seat. And I think this was like a power strategy move because he was so much bigger than me, right? So we're sitting down in the seat, and I'm looking up at him like this. And he goes, you got California license plates. You have a car packed to the brim, filled with who knows what. And you're in South Dakota. What are you doing here? And I looked him dead in the eye, straight face. I said, we're bringing donations for a church. And I can see his mind explode like, this motherfucker's good, right? And he looks at me and goes, he was like, man, he wasn't expecting that. He thought I was going to Standing Rock. He was just like, oh. He was like, so why do you have all those donations? Why didn't you just, Amazon, or what are you doing? I was like, we just graduated from college. We wanted to do something fun. We wanted to drive across the country in faith, in spirit of Jesus Christ. And I was like, and people actually gave these donations. They handed it to us. They didn't want to just give us the money. They wanted to do something physical. And so that's what we're doing right now, officer. And he looks at me and he goes, God bless you. And sent us on our way. And yeah. Made it to Standing Rock. That was crazy. So I got 2 minutes left. This story is not funny and it's not uplifting. It's very strange. And majority of people I tell this story to disagree with me. Every now and then people, like I think Aristotle said, it's the mark of an intelligent mind to accept an idea without entertain an idea without accepting it. Boom. Okay. So back when I was in undergrad, yes, I believe in, I'm a San Franciscan, and I believe in all rights and all humans and all that, right? And so because of that, I've always made friends with people who are very different. And I became the class clown because of this. At first it was an ego move, because in kindergarten, I got the whole class to laugh, and I was like, ooh, shit, this is power, right? I want to be a class clown, right? And so I started making people laugh, but there was a couple students that wouldn't laugh, due to, they're feeling left out, they're ostracized, their family problems at home, whatever, they're depressed. And so I would befriend these kids. Rather than being a bully, I would befriend these kids and find out ways to make them laugh, right? And over time, it just became me befriending people. And I went to Lowell High School. I felt very much alone in that high school, right? And so I just found ways to befriend people who were different. It hasn't always worked in my favor. I'm gonna tell you what happened. I was in a philosophy class in undergrad, and they have in San Francisco State, they have a program where it's prison back to school, right? And there was these posters starting to pop up all over school of a white supremacist. I'm talking about Nazi tattoos here. I'll show you pictures. Like this dude had pictures with superimposed himself with Hitler on his Facebook, like this. Like he was like the real deal, like white supremacist, did like 15 years in prison. And he happened to be in my philosophy class. And we agreed on everything. In class, not like that. In class, like all these things, all these topics, all these concepts that we were talking about. Me and him were the most outspoken in class, and we were just constantly like connecting on so many things. But that was it, just in class. And it got to a point that after class, he would want to continue the conversation with me. And I'm known on campus as like this activist dude and this like, whatever. And now rumors are going around the university that I'm befriending and I'm a white supremacist sympathizer. which I wasn't. I didn't want to continue the conversation with this guy. After class, I'm a human being. He's a human being. After class, he's trying to have a conversation with me, and I'm like, oh shit, you know? And he's like a big, really buff dude. He's he's really imposing, right? And so I was just like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna have this conversation. And so after a while, we just kept having conversations, and I stopped judging him and looking at him for the tattoos and a lot of his possible internal beliefs that he wasn't telling me. And at the end of the school year, with tears in his eyes, he shook my hand and he said, thank you, man. You're the only person who talked to me outside of class. And I'm a black dude, right? So I'm looking at him like, oh shit. And he was like, I appreciate you so much for this. I never thought I would befriend a black person before. And you changed my whole mindset on all of that. Yeah, and yeah. Right? And I felt very awkward about it a lot. When I tell people about it, they disagree with me, like, oh, you should have just shut it down and not do it. And I'm like, man, like, we had great conversations, and you know, I'm not saying what he believes in or what he's done in his past was correct, but I have read about that dude, that black dude who used to go into KKK meetings and try to talk to the Grand Master Wizards or whatever, Gandalf, whatever the guys and try to convert them, right? And have them turn in their robes. And I don't know if he turned in his robe, but I know that as human beings, especially as people who are here in America, we're so polarized right now that just being able to have a conversation with somebody who has different beliefs than you is something that we really need to do. We need more forgiveness and more grace. Thank you so much.
All right, let's bring up the cast of today's show. We'll have a final curtain call for our acts: Devin Hawkins, Liz Morrison, Lawrence Kushner, Larry Dorsey Jr. And Ginger Parnes. There you are, Ginger Parnes. Come on up. Yeah, give us the video. Take a group picture. Yeah, tie your shoes. There you go. Don't go away. There's also, I noticed all these people that have been in this show over the last couple of months. So if you've been in this show, come on up. I want to do like a curtain call again. Season curtain call. So yeah, Zorba, Lila, Abdul. Where are you, Abdul? Anybody else? Who else is here? Yes, here they come. Here we go. So we've had so many wonderful people, and some of them are here today. Thank you for coming back. Here we go. This is Hope Silver, yes. Can you get a picture of everybody, Alyssa? There we go. All right. All right, Abdul. Get over here, Abdul. You're with me. All right, here we go. Can you get us all?
Yes. All right, ready? And everyone needs to give a huge cheer.
Thank you all so much. Yes. And here's for me. Let's hear for me. So here's a quick announcement. You've heard a lot of announcements and things coming up. But I just wanted to let you know that next month, normal time, so last Wednesday of the month. But Kate Farrell will be leading the story. You want to say something about it, Kate?
Sure. And we'll have some of my students who are actually here tonight. Would you like to stand up so people have an idea who will
So here's the cast of next week and next month's show right here. Come back next month for that. And I will be back, the next time I will be back will be the end of August. So I will be not here in June or July, but August 28th. Yes, normal time, but it's going to be a little bit different. It's more of a workshop, so it's a ticketed event, so check out the information on the flyers on your table. And if anybody wants my book, you can pay for it back there. There's like a little Venmo code, and then come pick it up here. Thank you one more time. It's been a great story.